Let's jump right into it. You ask anyone around the league, and they'll tell you game one between the Wolves and Grizzlies, probably the most surprising game of opening weekend as the 7-seed Timberwolves were ready to go into enemy territory. They pull out an upset over the 2-seeded Grizzlies. His first ever playoff game, Anthony Edwards leads the way with the Wolves 36 points, 6 assists. Cat throws up 29 and 13. The Wolves shot 50% from the floor. They won the rebound battle 46-35 over Memphis. Hey, Ja Morant did what Ja Morant does, right, for the Grizz, throwing up 32, 8 assists, but not enough. You know the Grizzlies are going to scratch and claw here, Reggie, tonight, doing everything possible to avoid that 2-0 deficit before heading back to Minnesota for games 3 and 4. So after what you saw in game one and what you know about both these teams, what's your X factor for tonight's game? Who or what is going to be the catalyst in their team's ultimate success in tonight's game 2?
So for the Timberwolves, look, for me, it always stops and starts at Big Cat. Like, he has to have the type of night that superstars have, because this team comes and goes as he kind of comes and goes. And I think it was cool in the playing game when, your other teammates are able to pick up the slack. You talk about, oh, yeah, it's team ball, whatever. But I think with these games being as important as they are, Cat has to come out and set the tone for how the Timberwolves are going to play that night. And he did that in the last game. I keep saying it, but he came out just so sassy. He came out so sassy in that game 1 game. And it was just so interesting to see how he kind of just galvanized the team a little bit, and they just kind of went as they went. I think Ant is going to have to continue to be who he's been over the last couple games. And, I mean, that's going to be a challenge for him, but he's playing, excited. He's happy to be there, and so he's having fun out there. So I think he's going to continue to shine in his own right, because he doesn't want to get shown up by Ja, And this Wolves team has a lot of pride, and a lot of that comes from Cat's leadership and Patrick Beverley, Didn't really talk about him all that much.
Not much, no.
In game
quiet.
1.
Yeah, yep.
But he did what he had to do, and they got the win. And so I think it's going to be tough to get 2 straight in Memphis. That's a crazy place to play. The Grizzlies are going to be more jacked up. They got a game under their belt. And I mentioned this yesterday. Anytime a team scores 117 points, usually you're like, oh, okay, yeah, they probably win that game. The Wolves scored 130.
Wild.
It's crazy. And but they needed all 130 of those points. And so I think if you talk about who's going to be the X factor for them, you start with Cat, because he's the guy that kind of makes the engine go. And then you hope that from him doing what he has to do, that the other guys just kind of come around and do the same thing.
We all thought it, but now we got a chance to really see it. The Wolves may be the 7th seed, but this is a roster that matches up very well with the Grizzlies team. Remember, these two teams split in the regular season 2-2. And in those games, the Wolves put up big games offensively, averaging an offensive rating of 119, shooting 46% from the field, 39 from the arc. And remember, this was a Grizzlies team that it wasn't just a one-sided, unbalanced team, right, with the league's number 2 offense. No, they owned the 6th best defense in the NBA. So after allowing 130 points to the Wolves in game 1, I fully expect them to come out and have a better game plan for stopping Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns after they put up collectively 65. And if you're a Wolves fan, I think you should feel okay with that, because that leaves the door open for D'Angelo Russell. Remember, D'Lo averaged 31.7 assists in those 4 games against Grizzlies in the regular season. The guy shot 56% from the floor, 46% from 3. So I know he had a quiet game 1, but with the impact Ant and Towns had, you have to expect the Grizzlies to make a serious adjustment. And I just got a feeling D'Lo is going to capitalize and bounce back with the big game tonight, because because if he's anything like he's been against the Grizzlies earlier this year, they're going to have their hands full with the Wolves' big three and put a lot of pressure on him this game. Keep your eyes on D'Angelo Russell. He's my X factor for tonight's game matchup. So there's our X factors. Now, Reggie, flipping gears for a second, what's one storyline or key to the game maybe you think's just maybe not getting enough attention? You think it's going to have a bigger impact on the game than maybe people recognize, something maybe not talked about enough that you think could low-key have a decision and impact in who wins tonight's game?
All right. So this is not something that people are just like not talking about. People are talking about it, but I think it's interesting. So on Sunday night, Ja Morant posted this video from Last Dance when Michael Jordan was in his locker and he had the bat in his hand and the cigar in his mouth, and he was just like, if you could talk smack, when it's 0-0, then then you're about something. But if when you got the lead and you're talking smack, and he's just going through those things, and I'm like, interesting. I'm like, okay, Ja, like what message are you trying to send there? Like I'm trying to understand. And so I think what's going to be interesting is how he comes out and kind of motivates the Grizzlies in that next game. To kind of, I don't know, play with a little bit more of an edge. And I just want to see how the Timberwolves kind of respond to that. Cause I don't know. That's just, anytime you post Mike,
it's Mike. You're sending a message, right? You're setting the tone.
Yeah. You're trying to set the tone at least. And so I think, it's going to be on the Wolves to come out and play with some more of that pride to kind of, offset a little bit of that, that energy that Ja's going to come out on. A couple other storylines that I also kind of want to bring up is the play of the Grizzlies bench as opposed to the Timberwolves bench. Like,
no doubt, yeah.
The Wolves bench played about as well as you probably want to see them play in game one. Can they replicate that? And also, it's like Memphis was kind of celebrated a little bit coming into this series of kind of having a better bench. And they didn't necessarily play how maybe many expected them to play. And I also think that another storyline is who guards Cat. Because Steven Adams was almost barbecue chicken in game one. Like dude was a little barbecue chicken back there. Cat was eating him up. And it's so interesting because Jaren Jackson Jr. has 7 blocks. But he's much more athletic than Steven Adams. And I'm wondering, they put him on Vanderbilt, which I'm like, whatever. I don't think you're looking at Vando as just all this crazy offensive production. So I'm wondering if they decide to employ JJJ on Cat in this game and see just what that does for them. So those are some of the storylines I'm looking at.
Yeah, some really good under-the-radar storylines. I love that you brought up the Ja Morant kind of social media, throwing up Mike, sending that energy, maybe a little message, because for me, it's so cliche, but the key word for Minnesota when it comes to game 2 is poise. After pulling off that game 1 upset, the Wolves have to be prepared, again, for Memphis to come out with this added level of urgency, this intensity in order for them to tie up the series. Because if they fall behind, the Wolves, that is, they can't get flustered. They've proved in game 1 that they belong in the series and that they should have confidence in their game plan. But as a young team, it's going to be vital for them to keep their composure, regardless of what Memphis throws at them. Clean playoff basketball. Hit your free throws, create turnovers, take care of the ball. Just play your game and trust that your talent more times than not is going to win out versus their talent for 4 quarters, no matter the ebbs and flows of the game, because it's so easy for a young, inexperienced team to let their emotions and the surroundings get the best of them during the ups and downs, the roller coaster of a playoff game. And that's where I really think Coach Finch has not only had a huge impact on the regular season, but now you're seeing it carrying over to the playoffs as well, which if you're a Wolves fan, you got to be awfully excited that the team finally seems to have the right kind of teacher, mentor to develop all this talent, the glue to put these puzzle pieces together well enough and see it manifest finally in some playoff wins around here. So that's super exciting. exciting. I will say this, too, as far as an under-the-radar storyline coming into tonight's game. We talked a lot about momentum on yesterday's show. Who can grab some momentum early on in this season and ride that wave? Remember, heading in, the Grizzlies had all the momentum, right? Second-best record in the NBA, won 19 of their last 22 games in Memphis. But all of a sudden, Reggie, they've lost 2 straight. And the Wolves, they've won 5 of their last 7. So it just feels like the Wolves may be putting it all together right at the right time heading into the rest of the playoff series. So regardless of what happens in game 2, the Wolves will head home to Minnesota with at least a split. And you already know, looking ahead to game 3 should be awesome, an electric atmosphere in Minneapolis, which will be the first playoff game at the Target Center. You'll be there since 2018 and just the third since 2004, that KG era. It feels like a long time for these Minnesota Timberwolves fans. The Wolves are 7-point dogs once again in this one. Tip off 7:30 Central. You know, Reggie and I will be here tomorrow to break it all down. Remember, 7 and 8 seeds, they're combined 0-36 in the playoffs since 2013. I keep saying it. I can't get over that stat. It's just unbelievable. 0-36.